Well, thank you all very much. I'm going to pull this out. Thank you all very much for being here today and for celebrating what we are here today. I also want to thank Morton not only for putting this on, but for all the work that he has done for the conservative movement. So please give both Grover and Morton a hand. All right, so I got to mention something right off the bat. I wouldn't call it a pet peeve, right? It's not a pet peeve. It's not like I get upset when people do it. I understand it's a modern colloquialism. But when we say happy 4th, right, I usually respond with happy Independence Day, right? And the reason I do that is because I've become very much aware of the fact that we have a generation of Americans growing up that don't properly understand what exactly it is that we're celebrating on Independence Day. Right? It ends up becoming a great excuse to barbecue. You might get a day off of work. You might go to the lake. But what is it that we're truly celebrating on this day? And who are the people that we're remembering and the ideas that we're remembering? Because I think it's become almost this foregone conclusion. If I show a picture of George Washington to anybody in this room, you will probably think commander of the Continental Army. You'll think first president, father of the country. If I show you a picture of Thomas Jefferson, you'll probably think author of the Declaration of Independence, maybe author of the Virginia Statute of Religious Liberties, governor of Virginia, president of the United States. John Adams, you might think of like the absolute bulldog on the floor in the Second Continental Congress. All right, we can go through the list. Patrick Henry, James Madison, whose district I represent. Right, we think of Madison as father of the Constitution. The thing that I would like you to do this Independence Day is I want you to remember before, and this sounds obvious, right? But I want you to remember that before those people were any of those things, they weren't any of them. I have a picture in my office in the Virginia House of Delegates of George Washington, General George Washington, at the Prairie Valley Forge. Right? It's probably one of the most recognizable paintings out there. And again, when people look at that, they think, wow, what an amazing man. You know, incredible general, father of the country. And I like to stop them at that point and say, I want you to take a closer look at this, because at this point in his life, he was a failing general who the Continental Congress and members of his own staff was trying to undermine and overthrow. He had lost almost every single major battle that he had participated in. At this point, he wasn't just praying to his God, he was begging him. He had absolutely no assurance that the thing that we all accept as a foregone conclusion was going to take place. Not in that moment. When you look at Kimball's painting of the signing of the Declaration of Independence, again, we think of that, and we should think of that, as a great and incredible moment, not just in American history, but in the history of the world. For the declaration of grievances that we had brought up, and the fact that we were going to stand against it, that they were going to stand against that as a people. But in that moment when they were voting on that and they were signing on that, I think it was Dickinson from Pennsylvania that once warned against signing the Declaration of Independence, not because he wasn't a patriot, but the term he used is to sign this without the necessary preparations is to brave the storm in a skiff made of paper. There was no foregone conclusion that independence, declaring it, was actually going to end in the reality of independence. At that moment, the smart money was on the fact that every single one of those men had just signed away their lives. That was the reality in that moment. And yes, there was a lot of euphoria and there was a lot of hope behind it, but don't ever mistake what the actual reality was for anybody that was paying attention about 13 backwater colonies declaring war against the world's superpower. So why do I bring all of this up? Because I cannot tell you how many people I have run into that tell me, Nick, why are you doing this? It's already gone. It's already lost. We're still at the height of our power, of our wealth in this country. And you see people just discouraged. And I want to look at them like, really? At this point in our history, you have the audacity to claim that. To claim that it's not worth our time. that you can't change the culture in D.C., you can't change the culture in Richmond, it's just the way it is. That is not only horribly incorrect, it is an absolute slap in the face to everybody that has fought for it, everybody that has died for it, everybody that has bled for it. So what motivated a group of people that could have very easily said in their time, it's just not worth it. The taxes aren't that high, right? It's just not worth it. We can go along with our lives. We can get along. It's fine. Everyone just calm down. What motivated them to step up and say, no, it's not okay? And the fact that maybe we can deal with the additional taxes, that's not what makes it inappropriate. It's the fact that it is unjust. Because ultimately what our revolution was about was justice. It was about liberty. It was about understanding that each human being, and that's not to say that we've always gotten this part right, but it is enshrined in the Declaration of Independence that every human being has God-given inherent worth and has a right to be the author of their own lives. And because they recognized at that point in time, not that it was a foregone conclusion that they would succeed, but they recognized that at that point in time, they had an opportunity, that if they pooled their time, their resources, if they had the courage to stand up when so few people would, they had the possibility of making it a reality. And for that, they were willing to risk everything. I will tell you right now, I honestly believe, as a student of history, as someone that is engaged in the process, as someone that has fought overseas, I truly believe that we are at a generational crossing point in this country. Because many countries have gone through this process before where they get freedom and then they get prosperity and security and then they become complacent. We're there. We are there. The question is what will this generation, and I mean everyone that is living in this time, what will we do about it? Will we recognize that there is a generation of young people in this country that are growing up, they're being fed a caricature and a lie of what our revolution means? Not just as a country, not just to the people, but what that revolution means to them as an individual, as someone that has a right to live their own life. And the question that all of us have to ask ourselves right now as we celebrate a previous generation that was willing to give up everything for the chance to make it a reality, what are we going to do? Because if we just come here and we listen to some speeches and we eat some food and we go home, we've failed. We've not only failed ourselves, we've failed everyone that's going to come after us, and we've failed everyone that's come before us. But the reason why I am encouraged is that for every one person that tells me, Nick, what's the point? There's a room full of people like this that know exactly what the point is and are willing to fight for it with boldness, with passion, and with conviction. So let this Independence Day, be the one where you remember and you recognize that before any of them were great men and women, they were just regular men and women. But they believed in something, they were willing to fight for it, and if it cost them their lives to do it, they recognized it was worth it. Because if we can capture that, and we can be that generation, then I have absolutely no doubt that the best of this nation, the greatest deeds, are all yet to come. And we have an opportunity to be that generation that once again reminded us all of who we really are as people, as beautifully and wonderfully created in the image of God. And we have an opportunity to be a beacon of hope, not just for this country. We have an opportunity to be a beacon of hope for mankind across the world and everyone yearning to breathe free. Thank you very much for being here.